Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and we are going to turn the meeting over now to John Kennedy, who is part of the APCUG Speakers Bureau. He's going to be talking about free and open source software, alternatives to free software. Um, John is part of the East Central Ohio Technology Users Groups. He's been very active in the newly formed Central Florida Linux group. And John, thank you for joining us and looking forward to your talk. I'll just turn the floor over to you. Thanks so much.
That's short and sweet. That's really the way to do it. Presenting short workshop on free software alternate to free software. And that's me. I am a member of the East Central Ohio Technology Users Club in Newark, Ohio, which is about 40 miles east of Columbus, just off the interstate. And as a number of people are, proud member of the Speakers Bureau. And that's one of your benefits that your club has for being an APCUG member. And on the side, I also happen to be the regional advisor for regions 3 and 6, which goes all the way from Tennessee up to the Great Lakes and swerves clear across to North and South Dakota, although we don't have anybody up there right now. So I have that big area of clubs. And this is brought to you by APCUG. And we thank you for being a member group. I'm going to talk to you today about functional resources that are economically enticing. Functional resources, economically enticing. Or otherwise known as free. And that's where you get the nickname Free John. I have needs like all of us do. And in my computer software, I need software that does what, I want it to do, not what somebody else wants it to do. And being a retired person, coming off of a teacher's person, I need stuff that's reasonable. Too many software out there is way more than I can afford. A lot of the software is designed for business, and business can pass on their costs to the consumer. I have nobody to pass costs on to, so I've got to deal with it myself. I also have found out that a lot of times software has more in it than I really need and costs me more than I need. I might need just a simple little package that does this, and you got to buy a huge thing. I found out that there's software that costs money. And like you get on restaurants and stuff, the more dollars, the more it costs. And I also found software that's free. And, besides the free software, there is free software that I like better than other free. And the same thing is going to be for you. You might like software better than what I like, and I like better than what you do. I see two kinds of software in the world. Sadly, PS, happily, FS. There's another side of software that is what I'm more concerned about. And that's in the area of closed source and open source. And the initials you can see are the CSS and the OSS for that. And so when you combine those with the previous screen of PS, paid software, free software, this is where we get the letters for the PCSS, the paid closed source, and that's what people usually call proprietary. You have the paid open source, and that's usually something that costs very little, just enough to sustain somebody. So we call it freeware and maybe shareware. And then you get FOSS, free open source software that's totally at no cost at all. And in the presentation, I've got those marked with the double little yellow asterisks so you can see which ones are the total open source free ones. So we have FOSS. A lot of people say, what in the world is FOSS? not floss for your teeth, FOSS. And that, as I said, is free open source software. So the question is, we know that we've got open source, closed source. Well, what's the difference and what does it mean? And I easily can explain it by telling you recipes, because we all know recipes. We've all been to potlucks of some nature. And we go down the row and we find a dish that's sitting there and we get it and it's fantastic. You got to have it. I got a reunion coming up, or I got a family gathering, something coming up. I want that dish at my gathering. So you go up to the person that made that and say, I love that dish. Can I have the recipe so I can fix it for my family? And they say, oh, gee, no, that's kind of been in our family for a long time, and we don't share it. That's closed source. You don't know what's in it. As opposed to turn the table around, you go up to somebody and say, boy, I like that recipe. Could I have it? And they said, of course. I got that recipe from somebody, and I got that recipe for somebody. Here it is. You know, because you have the recipe, exactly what's in it. And then you can sit down and say, well, look what they put in here. Uh-oh, I've got a cousin that's going to be at the dinner and there's some nuts in here. Can't have any nuts. So I'll take that out of the recipe so there's no problem. Or you might look at that recipe and say, boy, that recipe was good. But you know, if I added a little bit of this and this, it's going to make it even better. Open source software is the same way. The code that is put together to create that software is totally open for anybody to examine and see exactly what's in it. Nothing can be hidden in an open source software because everybody sees it. This is why open source software is usually more secure than any other software, because if somebody tried to put something in it, it would be seen because it's nothing hidden. And if you run open source software, there's nothing that can surprise you and jump out later because it was hidden. So open source developers want people to share the code so it can be rewritten, improved, and makes it even better. Now, just because it's free open source doesn't mean you can't donate. These people are doing a service. They're not charging for it. But my feeling is, hey, even if I'm free, John, I might donate a little bit to their cause to thank them for creating a software that I think is so good at such a reasonable free amount. Okay, so here's the disclaimer. I will admit that some free programs could be limited in what they might have. I'll say right now, I am not a Microsoft Office user. I have not been, I don't know for how long. I'm a LibreOffice user. I go clear back into the middle 2000 when it was started as Star Office. And I'm told by people that there are some features not in LibreOffice that are in Microsoft Office. I couldn't say to that because I don't know what's in there enough. All I know is if there's something missing, I haven't missed it. And you may not miss it either. If there is something that's missing and you feel that you have to have it, then I tell people that you must admit to me that you are paying whatever amount of money for that software for that feature. You're not paying for the whole program because all of that other stuff is available for free. You're paying for that particular feature, and that might be what you need to. And the bottom line for me is to tell people, try it. If it doesn't meet your needs, then go ahead and go the other way. For me, I haven't really found a problem with any of this free software that I have been using. Okay, so I'm going to break this down kind of into areas of the computer needs, and you can see I'll talk about a number of different ones. I'm not going to go into depth on the programs as how they work and what they do. I'll show you some screenshots so you can see, but this is to share with you a lot of my favorite free software, but particularly looking at open source software. So I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that I use or would use. Some of these would be things in the Windows world, and since I'm not in the Windows world, I wouldn't use them, but if I were, then I might. So we're going to start out with operating system. That's the brains of everything. And nowadays we all like to have a graphical desktop. We can all remember, some of us probably can all remember back into the beginning days of text. So I want a graphical one, lots of applications. And when we talk about free and open source software, that equates with Linux. Linux is open source software at its best, free operating system, and it's exactly that. It's an operating system just like Windows and Mac. And I'm going to show you, if you haven't seen it, but luckily, Central Florida now has its own Linux group, so you'll get a lot more information. But when you look at it, you're going to say, oh, that looks like Windows. And all I would have to tell you is that I've taken Windows and I've moved everything around. And you would say, oh, okay. You'd have to really look close to find some big differences. There's one example of a version of Linux, and here's another one. And you can see the menu kind of looks very similar to what we've had over the years. The taskbars, the icons, the only big difference that you would find is that the down at the bottom right-hand corner where we have the workspaces, that's been around with Linux for years, and Windows finally brought that to the forefront a few years ago for Windows 10. And you can see that a Linux operating system pops up Windows just like Microsoft Windows pops up Windows, and there's no difference. The big difference is it's free, and all the software that I used to run on Windows was free, and of course on Linux it's free too. All right, so I do a lot of help people with their tech problems, and I need to be able to get to them. Sometimes they bring them into our building, but a lot of times they have problems when the weather's not great. And those of us who are up in the north, not like you in the south, we have cold winters, wet winters, slippery winters, and I like to be able to help people when they need help and do it remotely. And I want to be able to see what's going on, because talking doesn't really do it. I want to be able to communicate, but I want to be able to do it visually. I had to work with somebody one time, and we were trying to figure out, maybe it was their PayPal. And we talked for 20, 30 minutes asking questions, and they've giving answers. And the questions I was asking, she was not giving me the right answers. And the answers she was giving me weren't for the right questions. Finally, we said, let's get online. And I had the problem solved within like 10 minutes at the most. So first part, talking. If I want to be able to talk to somebody other than on the phone with the computer, Jitsi is the open source free program that lets me talk voice and video and desktop. It's very similar to Zoom and probably to Team. I haven't used Team, and you're able to talk. So if I put up here free software, these are the three top software. Jitsi is the open source one. Works great. Now, when I show you, at first glance, you'd say, oh, Zoom. Well, no, this is Jitsi. It's exactly the same. If you look there, all the same tools are there. We've got gallery view, we've got speaker view, we've got raise your hand, we've got sharing a screen. Excuse me. So that's Jitsi. Of course, there's Zoom, as we already know. Some back in the days before we were using all these Zoom meetings, we were sharing what Zoom was. The other thing I use is Skype for talking. You can talk to anybody in the world for free over Skype to computer. I use it because when I'm doing tech help, I don't want to use the voice communication within the program that I'm using, because if it falls apart, there's no communication. So I use Skype, and I do pay. Free John does pay. I pay for the service for Skype to phone. So I can call people and talk to them on the phone while they're working on the computer. And if something happens, I can still talk to them if the computer's gone. So let's talk about remote assistance. TeamViewer used to be my #1 go-to for remote assistance. It's not open source, but it was still kind of really good out there. If you want an open source web-based remote access, DW service is the one that you would use. The other one that is going on is AnyDesk, and I'm really liking that a lot more. It's rising to my top. APCUG will be doing a workshop in a few weeks on remote assistance, where we're going to do the Microsoft Assist, the TeamViewer, and AnyDesk in more depth and detail. So if you're interested in that, watch for that Wednesday workshop. This is what TeamViewer looks like. You're on your computer, you connect to somebody's computer, you see theirs in the window, and then you have a number of drop-down menus with all the different things you can do to work with them. The DW one, very similar. The gray background is my desktop, and this is the window open on it, and this is their computer I can see, and there's the controls I have. And with all these programs, you have control for keyboard and mouse, and you can do things on it. So it's all three of these are really good programs. AnyDesk that you can see, same thing. My computer is on the outside. The window is the computer that I'm connecting to, and either across the middle in a Windows version or on the right-hand side are all your tools that you can use to access. So any of those are good. I'm moving to AnyDesk because TeamViewer has started to restrict, not restrict, but has started to reduce the number of features in TeamViewer for the Linux user. So I can't use it as much as I used to, so I'm not going to. Move on to protection. And these are all the different areas that we talk about protection. And so we're going to talk about the free software that goes. And a lot of times, the free software that I mentioned will have a counterpart that's a paid version. Paid version may have a few features. You have to decide for yourself, do those features that they have worth the money or not? Sometimes the paid features will be for tech support, but a lot of programs have fantastic online forums that sometimes even do a better job of explaining to you, because it's everyday people, of answers to your problems. So for me, I haven't moved to that, but everybody's different. You know, you might decide you want something. When we talk about password managers, and a lot of us really push for that, because using the same password for everything is really not good. Using simple passwords is not good. So password managers will help create hard to crack passwords. The one that I use is Bitwarden. It's obviously open source. A second good one that would be on open source is KeePass. There's a Windows version, there's a Linux version, and now there's a newer one that is all cross-platform. So the newest version, XC, can be used by all platforms at the same time. This one's a little bit different because it is something that you keep on your computer and then keep it in a file. You can take the file with you. It's not cloud-based like Bitwarden would be, or LastPass. So RoboForm, LastPass, Dashlane are also free versions of a password manager. But like I said, I'm focusing on open source. Bitwarden, this is Bitwarden. You have all of your different websites that you log into, and you can use this one then to automatically put in your username and password for websites that you go to. It also will let you keep all of your information for like your bank cards secure, and your identity. People use these to keep their passwords secure because these are all encrypted. So, you're safe because it's not going to be found. But it's a good place to keep all of your secure stuff together, plus notes, and you can organize them however you want to. You can leave them in one. Our friend Judy Toulour, she just likes the ABC method. So she has one folder, everything's in alphabetical order. I can't do it that way. I need to have categories. KeyPass, you can see, has very similar. On the left-hand side, you see the categories. In the middle are all of the websites that you go to. This one, you do your control keys and you copy and paste your username and password where it's needed. Bitwarden has extensions for both for all the browsers, and I like that one better because it's a one-click and automatic fills in both spots usually. RoboForm, a lot of people like it. There's a free version, paid version, and you can see same thing. You've got your categories, and then for each category, you have your website that you go to and the password. So no excuse not to have a password manager because there's a number of good ones for free. Bookmark Managers. This is where you have to kind of weigh what you want to do or not. Every browser has the ability to remember your websites that you go to. The problem is if you add something to Firefox and then you go to Edge or Chrome, it's not there until you add it there. If you go to a program like EverSync, which is cross-platform, if I fix it in one place, it will change it everywhere else. I used to use one that was by the same company that has LastPass, Xmarks, and Xmarks was great. And LastPass bought them out. I started supporting LastPass because they did that. And then LastPass dropped Xmarks and said, we're not going to do it anymore. And I said, fine, I'm not going to do you anymore. But a lot of people like LastPass. That's fine. EverSync does it, and RoboForm. So with EverSync, it's almost like the same thing. There's all the categories of my different websites I go to, and I can be able to click and go right to that site. The more I've used Bitwarden, the less I've had to use EverSync. EverHelper is the program that you use to get it into your computer. Because I can go to Bitwarden and I can click on the website I want to go to because it has the web address. So it's two programs in one. It gets me the website and then gets me logged in. And of course, RoboForm does the same thing. So you can use RoboForm for both passwords and for website remembering. On to protection with antivirus. Antivirus is important, along with some of the other ones that I'll get to. I will have to throw in that Linux is not as susceptible to problems of viruses and stuff because of open source. When open source is there, you try to stick something in, people are reading the code all the time, they're going to find it and get rid of it. There was one time that one of the Linux distributions, their website got kind of hacked. And when you clicked on the link to get the download, it took you to a different place, and you downloaded a corrupted version of the operating system. That one was resolved, within hours, once it was found, examined, and cleared up. And that's because with open source being so open, there are literally tens of thousands of people who are scouring through things to check on it. As opposed to closed source, there are only certain people that are allowed to know what's inside that software, inside that code. So it takes them longer to get things figured out. In the open source world, we have two very good antivirus programs, ClamWin and ClamAV. Avast is another good, that's for Bob, free virus, which I think he said is now heading towards Linux use. And of course, you might be just happy with this, what comes with Microsoft's Windows 10 security. ClamAV, the problem people have with it is, ooh, it looks boring. Well, to be honest, do you have to have a fancy looking car to drive you somewhere? You just need a car that has 4 wheels, steering wheel, and whatever. So although this ClamWin doesn't look good, it does the function. You pick which drive you want to scan and you scan it. ClamAV they made to look better. I don't know that it works any better than ClamWin, but it looks better. So a lot of people go switch with that. Excuse me. Avast, one of the top ones, has all the scanning that you can do, and it's free. Bob tells me that the biggest difference between the free and the paid was the support, but hey, I go to his forum and he'll give me all the help that I need. So that's another free one. And Microsoft, of course, has their own. When we talk about spamware, spyware, whatever, I didn't include Avast because Avast does have that in their whole package deal. Interesting that there are no open source programs for this area, but the two top free ones that we talk about would be Malwarebytes and Super Anti-Spyware. Malwarebytes, typical scan what you want, looks for things that shouldn't be there. The paid version will set up a schedule so that you can run it when you want it. The free version, you just run it yourself. And I don't have a problem with doing that. It's at a certain time, I say, okay, it's time to run the scan again. And Super Anti-Spyware, the same thing. It works great, just like Avast on the free side. And if you want to pay for some extra features for scheduling, you can. Cleaning up. I want to point out to you a new program that's new to me. It's called BleachBit. And BleachBit will do pretty much the same thing that CCleaner does. And CCleaner was one that a lot of us used for cleaning up the computer. So BleachBit, open source. Now Revo Uninstall and Advanced Uninstall Pro are free programs to remove. Revo Uninstaller was great because it will go deep into the computer innards and get rid of things. Typically, Windows will say, we will remove only what we have to remove. And when programs install, they just put stuff all over your computer. But Revo goes in and CCleaner goes in and BleachBit, and they will dig deep down and find all the stuff to get rid of it. Speci is a great program, specifications of your computer. If you ever want to know everything about your computer that you didn't want to know, this program will tell you. And Belarc is another great one, all free, that will tell you about what's inside your computer. Our club has a refurbishing, and when we do a refurbishing, we run Belarc, and we have a printout that tells people exactly what's in that computer that we refurbished and they're buying from us or getting from us. Here's example of BleachBit on my computer, and you can see on the left-hand side like with CCleaner, that you can go through and select what all you want it to scan. Then it scans, and then you hit the button to clean, and it cleans it all out. So I did a preview clean, which is nice. This one lets you give you an idea of what it's going to clean. You can kind of scour through that. Revo Uninstaller. This one has changed. When I first started using this, there were 4 levels of scanning. And now they've kind of modified it to 3 levels. So it will let you scan at your comfort level. If you aren't comfortable with them going way into your registry and all that sort of stuff, you can back it down to moderate or safe. And this program is really good because it can help find pieces and parts that sometimes stick around. CCleaner will do that a lot. We'll do that the same. And again, with the free software, it's free. Try it. You might like it. Try it. You might like a different one better. When it's free, it's not costing you anything. So give Revo Uninstaller a try. Give CCleaner Uninstaller a try. See which one you like better. It's your choice, not any of ours. Speci is right here, or Specky, specifications. This program will just knock your socks off. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's the different areas that it looks deep into your computer and tells you. I'm not going to go through all those different categories, but you can see that just going through the summary, I'm running I was running when I took the screenshot, a Windows 10 computer. It was a Lenovo motherboard, 8 gigs of RAM. There's the graphics, all the storage that was in on it, and even caught the fact that I had a thumb drive plugged in. And at the time, when I did it, it even tells your temperature of your processor and your hard drive running. So this program is great. You can create this big program file and save it. And then you could copy it and print it out if you wanted to, but save this to your backup stuff. And then you know exactly all the different parts of your computer, everything about your peripherals, the network. It's amazing. Belarc doing the same thing, only it's kind of it runs one program and then gives you all this information. As you can see on this one was done when maybe way back when I was doing a Windows 7, and it tells you where I am and tells you all about the processor, what's on my USB storage. What's nice about Speci working, or Belarc working, is that it will even give you a printout of all your updates, so you know how much your computer is updated, what we've updated, and great program. So I would definitely tell you, you need to have this one and run it and print it out, or do Specky and save it, so that if something happens to your computer, you know everything about the insides or can let somebody else know. If we go to talk about backing up, a number of different free software. Number of these are ones you've heard people in clubs talk about a lot. One of them that's a top rated one that's open source is called Bacula, back you up. And it's good. I'll show you a little slide of that. Does the same thing. Clonezilla is a program that you can use to do your whole computer backup. You can also use a program called Partition Image, and that is a free program that will work you on backups and restores. And of course, each of these companies have free versions, paid versions. I've never not been satisfied with the free version. ASUS To Do, Macrium Reflex would be my number one on Windows. And that one was because in the past days, when I would back up a laptop, I would use it to back it up to an external drive hooked to my desktop. And the free version of ASUS said, nope, I'm not going to do that again. Macrium said, no problem. So I said, okay, I'm switching. And our club uses the Aomi backup for backing up all of our classroom computer images. Here's what the backup looks like, and it's very similar to about anything. I would say give it a try, picking out what you want to save, where you want to save it, and then run your jobs. I don't care what you use, you got to back up. A program to back up your files is one of them. Is had been using the Sync Back, and you can see in here, this is many years ago, that you can create your own specific backup sets and run them whenever you want. And so I just, for fun, had 3 different backups, and I backed them up at different times. And backup doesn't care what you use, but Sync Back. We did a workshop before on one other one. So when we did the Wednesday workshop with a backup, that one guy has one that's really neat because he runs it when he's done for the day. And when it's done, it shuts the computer off. So nothing is connected. Then when he gets up in the morning, he just unplugs his external drive and starts things back up again. Think that. Clonezilla. Now, the one thing that people don't like about Clonezilla is pretty much a menu driven. It's not a GUI. But again, what do you need? A program that does what you need or looks good. EASUS, there's theirs. I've used it. There's the Macrium, which is my favorite of those. And again, you pick what do you want to back up, where do you want to back it up, and then you do it. And same thing for Aomi. Now we get to the program that I'm stealing the thunder from Judy because she introduced me to this one. If you want to keep your computer up to date, 3 good programs to do that. Patch My PC, Night Night, and Avast will do it for those people who are Avast users. Patch My PC is the most fantastic program that I've seen for a Windows user. It's free. As you can see, it's not open source, but it's free. This one has a list of over 300 or so different pieces of software that it recognizes. It scans your computer, finds what you have, and then tells you what you need. This example shows that there are 6 programs that need updated. Now there's a false one because there are 2 different Vivaldis listed. When there was an update to Vivaldi, it did not remove the one before. So this is great because I've learned that, I still have 2 different versions of the program running. So I got rid of the 0.40 and updated the 0.43. In a second part of this program that's so good, anything that I see that isn't green or red, green and red mean I have it, red means I have it, but it needs updated. If it's not green or red, if I decide I'd like it, I can just check the box, rescan, and the computer says, oh, here's a program that's not even here, and it will install for you. A great program, for brand new computers, because you can run this and most of this will be empty. Pick all the ones you want and it'll install it and keep it up to date. Excellent, excellent program. You can schedule it to do checks for you. And as you can see, it does it all in the background. That's what's nice. Run it to see what you need, hit the button, and then leave. One of the things that I didn't like about some backup programs is that when update programs, when they ran, they put desktop icons. People who know me, do not like desktop icons. I think there's no reason to have them because they clutter up your desktop. Pictures are on there. And once you have something open like I do right now, I can't see my desktop and I couldn't see my icons. This program has an option that you can check to say, do not install icons on the desktop. Because I had one program that I would do that, then I have to go to get rid of them. This one will let you do it without. The other one that's really good, and we use this in our club a lot when we refurbish computers, because we can go through this list. And the reason I'm going Patch My PC it's a bigger list, and you just check all the programs that you want, and then you hit the button and it installs all of them. It's saved in a file, and all you do in the future is run that file again, and Night goes out and looks and checks to see what needs to be updated, and then can update. So this is a good program. I think Patch My PC is a better one to help you. Avast will also go out and check. I have not the expertise to say how good of a job it does, but what I did notice was that it doesn't do it automatic unless you pay for the extra, and it only does it one at a time at the time I was testing it out. So it does find it, but then you have to go one at a time and update, as opposed to Night and Patch My PC, which will do them all at once. Okay, moving on. Productivity, we all do that. When we talk about Office suites, LibreOffice is out there at the top, open source, free. This is the one I talked about before. For me and a lot of other people, this has more in it than we ever use. And so what's not in it that might be in Office would be something we'd never use. As a open source free note-taking program, you need to check in to Joplin. Joplin works great cross-platform. It just has some different features than Evernote. Evernote's free, closed source, so you choose. Another one that's really right behind LibreOffice, and with open source, we have lots of programs that are very similar to each other. Just like you get recipes, and you could go to a potluck and there's 4 different potato casseroles, but they're all a little bit different because everybody can do their recipe. So Calligra is another very, very similar program to LibreOffice, as well as FreeOffice and WPS Office. WPS is Word, Presentation, Spreadsheet. And of course, you have the free web versions that you can use. So lots to try depending on what you want to choose. Here's one thing that is really took me a long time to find in LibreOffice. There is a special program that's not the Word or the writing program, the presentation program. It's the main program that pops this up, shows you the previous programs you've used, and then lets you go right to a brand new file. But what is neat, it has the recent files, but look above that. You'll see where it says remote files. I had to investigate. When you use this, LibreOffice can connect to your cloud storage. And you can see here that a while ago, sometime, I connected to my Google Drive. And so LibreOffice can get anything from my Google Drive. I don't have to go to Google, download it, then open it up in LibreOffice. And, I'm just going to go quick through this one. LibreOffice has the same features. LibreOffice Writer now has, or LibreOffice has 2 toolbars now. The traditional old-time drop-down menus that we've grown up with, and I could switch now if I wanted to and go to the modern one with the ribbon. And so if you're somebody who has been using Windows for, Microsoft Office for a number of years, and you're really used to the ribbon, you can use the ribbon version. If you are somebody who's been a long time drop-down menu, you've got that choice. And there's the calculating program. There's the presentation program. This is, I use this one to create all my presentations. And they even have a drawing program that is a step above the old Paint program that people can use this a lot. Draw also can help you do some editing in PDFs because it opens them up. And they even have their own database. I don't use those. Here is the Joplin, and you can see that there's categories for different kinds of notebooks. And then in each notebook, you've got all the notes that are in there. And then this one has two different versions you can look at. One's a markup language and one's the actual one. And so you can work in either. Some people know markup language, like the know HTML, so they can do it on that one, or you can just do it in regular. But this one works too. It connects with my phone, all my computers. I have a feature where I can do some snippet stuff too. So Joplin, check it out. Oh, Firefox browsers, open source, definitely Firefox and Chromium. Chrome came from Chromium, and Google took Chromium and then locked it down and stuck some stuff in it. So, you know, you don't really know what's totally in Chrome. But Brave is another offshoot from Chromium. It's in a little bit better because it's more secure with your privacy in that. For email, if you want a client on your computer because you don't want to use webmail, Thunderbird was the big standard, very similar to Outlook Express from years gone by. A new one that's coming of age or improving a lot is called MailSpring. Either one of these are nice because there are still some people that like to have all their mail on their computer, not just staying in the cloud. I add Lightning. It's an extension for Thunderbird that makes a calendar. And this is an excellent calendar. And it even will tap into your Google Calendar and tap into your phone. So if I put something into Lightning, it will update my Chrome Google Calendar. And if I put something in Google Calendar, it'll show up in Lightning. Here's the newest Firefox, just came out with their new version. And, you know, most of you know all about that, but it's open source. So that's why we're pushing, or I push for Firefox. Or here's the new one, Brave. And Brave's nice because as you use it, the more you use it, the more it tells you how much it blocked, how much bandwidth it saved in time. So I would definitely give Brave a strong consideration. It's free. Brave is very customizable, just like the others. So, you know, check it out. Thunderbird, it'll look very similar to, you know, what we used to do in the old days of Outlook Express. There's the calendar. I created, as you could, oh no, I didn't do this one. You can see this person created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different calendars in a sense, and then color coded it. So when they look at your calendar, you can see. So Lightning was an excellent add-on to Thunderbird. There is no calendar for MailSpring, so that might be a deal breaker for me. There's MailSpring. MailSpring has a very modern look. What's really interesting is whenever you click on an email, as you can see, this one is from Amy, her contact information comes up on the side. And this one has, and this might be a feature you'd like, every email that I get from Amy is in this column that I can go backwards through Amy's mail. I don't have to be going back through history of everything. Something to consider and check out, MailSpring. The only negative is you have to sign up for a MailSpring an account to use MailSpring to get your mail. And I think they said that the free version only lets you have maybe 5 different addresses. Not too many of us have more than 5 addresses, but $8 a month, I guess, is the paid. Okay, moving on. Productivity, screen capturing. One of the things that I tell people is that if you have a problem with a computer, don't just try to tell me what that error message said. I think it said, well, that's not going to help anybody who's trying to, you know, work on your computer. You need to have screenshots, and there are a number of programs that'll take screenshots from your computer. We go all the way back to the days of hit the print screen, but 3 that I want to point out that are all 3 open source is GreenShot, KSnip, and ShareX. GreenShot is the one I used for many, many, many years when I made manuals for teaching computers in our club, because not only can I take the screenshot, but I can edit. If you look on the side, this program has all the tools that you would find in a photo editor, and I could take my screenshots and put arrows and text and everything on that. So this is a double duty program, GreenShot. KSnip is a newer one that's cross-platform. K started out in the Linux world, but they made a version that goes into the Windows world too. Does much the same thing and has all the editing. So KShot. Then a modern one that people like with the toolbar that's a floating toolbar at the top. This is the one ShareX, and you can see all the things that it can do. Take a screenshot and then editing. So check out those programs. PDF tools. I don't have screenshots, I think, for these, but just to let you know, and also at I've sent to Stan this whole preview or this whole slideshow. I have a second half. The second half has all the hyperlinks that go right to most of the software I talked about. But if you're looking for PDF tools, LibreOffice creates PDFs and opens PDFs. But if you're looking for a specific PDF program, here are a number of the ones that are out there: PDF Creator and Sumatra, PDF Edit. One that's very handy is one that's called PDF SAM. And the SAM stands for split and merge. This is where you can take a number of PDFs, make them into one, take a giant PDF and split it apart. So PDF SAM. Multimedia players. Probably the top one that we talk about that's open source and any source is VLC. It plays just about everything, videos and audios. And most people usually add that onto their computer that they're doing. If you're looking for just a music player, Strawberry came from a program called Clementine. So we're talking about fruits. And it does a fantastic job of being your music player. And Audacious does that too. MPCHC, Media Player Classic. If we think back to the old days of Microsoft's Media Player Classic, Home Cinema. Somebody has taken that because it's open source and built it into a good functioning program that runs videos. So if you want to just have something that's very simple, check that. Here's VLC. I think a lot of people have seen that, a lot of different discussions, but I'm pointing out the fact that it's an open source that makes it special for me. Here's the Strawberry, and it's a lot like an iTunes type program where it reads all your collections and all your music and then plays. It can show you jacket information. Really a good one that's open source. And this one is the Audacious. And again, all your pieces and you play it. So if you're looking for just a player one, and this is the one that Media Player Classic, Home Cinema. And so if you want something that's just going to be a good, simple video player, no extra stuff that you don't need cluttering up the way, check that one out. Editing, Audacity, the #1 audio editor. There's another one, Adore. No, that's not saying it right. That's a little bit more complicated, but this one is easy enough for anybody to use, that you can edit out sounds, you can merge sounds together. Same bunny, but this is the Avidemux program that is good for video editing. We have a lot of other programs that are good, a little bit more complicated. Caden Live would be the one that I would say is one of the top ones. Handbrake. If you need to convert or transform files from one kind of a file to another, you need to check out Handbrake. CD burning. Not that we have that much anymore, but there are still some people that have CD players and burn. Here are 4 top rated open source programs that I've used over the years, except the one I wish I had found out earlier was the CDR TFE, the CD art, and Image Burn. The CD burner, you can burn just about anything, whether it's audio, video, or ISO images. And it's very simple. You pick the file you want and drag it in to the window and say, burn that to my DVD or CD in the old days. Info Recorder is a newer one. We were using this one because there was a problem with some kind of external drives or something with in the older days with the CD burner. So we found Info Recorder and used that, but those are two good ones. And this is the new CDR tools. It's again, same thing, just somebody has been able to write it around, create a little bit different. And the last one was image burn. Photo editing. Everybody, there's a lot of doing photo editings. GIMP would be the big mother of all photo editing programs. This would be a free version. Might not do, like I said, everything that Photoshop can do, but I don't have the money to get Photoshop to learn, find out what's missing. That would be your job. But if you need something that does as much as you probably ever do, then you've got GIMP. This one is Inkscape. We grew up in the days with Paint, and we learned that Paint was a bitmap program. You color little squares, and the squares were so tiny, it looked good, but when you enlarged it, the more you enlarged it, all of a sudden edges started getting jaggedy because they're all squares. Well, Inkscape is the different kind. This one does true shape everything. So this is the program you want to have, because if you draw stuff with it, and it expands and shrinks perfectly, and you can see all the tools on it. So it's a heavy duty one. Ketra is another newer one that, like somebody had said to me, this is a program that you have to be an artist to be able to draw stuff with it. It is fantastic. This is a top-notch program. It's free and used a lot for people who create artistic things. And this is Darktable. Darktable is a open source free program. The play on words is, a lot of you have heard of Lightroom. This is Darktable. So this would be the open source equivalent to Lightroom. And this one's a neat. When I first saw it, that you can drag this line on the middle and see the before and the after. That's kind of neat. So Darktable, for those who are really into that sort of stuff. And we wrap up with just a couple of extra utilities for file compression, 7-zip. If you are interested in creating virtual operating systems to be able to test out things, VirtualBox, open source. If you're into genealogy, Gramps is an open source program that's free. And if you want to know what's happening on the inside of your computer, I'll show you the picture. Windorstat, or in Linux, it's K4 dirstat, directory strat, is a program that will give you some answers. For example, here's 7-zip. If you ever needed to take a number of files and compress it so you can send them easy, or if somebody sends you a zip, 7-zip undoes it, free open source. VirtualBox is a program that within your own computer, that you can create a live running operating system. We do that a lot with the Linux. I run Linux, but I could create a VirtualBox for running Windows inside of Linux, or in Windows, you can do it and run Linux inside of it. Gramps, we did a workshop. I mentioned that next month, there's going to be another genealogy APCUG Wednesday workshop that will feature Gramps a little bit more. But this program has been highly rated, and it's free for creating very complex family trees. And you can see just, there's a sample of what you can do, but I haven't used it enough to be able to tell you, but that's why we have workshops on that. This is the Windorstat. And this one is the one when you're really trying to figure out what's taking up room on your computer. As you can see, the bigger squares are what's filling up your computer. So somebody who knows what they're doing can come down here and find out exactly what's all going on under the hood in your computer. There's another program called Tree Size Free that I forgot to add to this. I don't think it's open source, but it's another one where it's great because it'll show you, where is all of your space coming or used up space coming from. And it will tell you this folder is the biggest one, and inside that folder, here's what's taking up your room. And we used this one time with somebody because their hard drive was filling up. They couldn't figure out why. And we were able to go and find out that in one partition, in one fold, there was a lot of backups being made or files being stored. All right. Are there others? Both free and free open source? Of course there are. 3 of the best places to check on open source software and free are OSALT, OS Alternatives, Alternative 2, and Tech Supporter Alert. Tech Support Alert's a great one because it has one section for free and Windows programs, one section for Mac, and one section for Linux. So you can go there. So that's a little place. I want to thank you for allowing me to share my ideas on free software. And we have a number of different presenters that do free software, but my focus was on open source free software. So there are some people that would recommend some other programs that I didn't, but I'm recommending all the open source ones. If you need to contact me with suggestions of programs that might be good to add to this, you can get a hold of me at freejohn@protonmail.com. And as a bonus, I said I've sent this to Stu. You can see that I run through slides, and every one of these have live links. And that way you can click the link and go to the exact download page rather than trying to figure out where you want to go. And searching the internet sometimes is not the easiest thing to do. So I'll turn things back over to Stan. And stop my sharing.
Okay, John, that was very thorough. My gosh, there are programs that I've used for years and learned stuff about that I didn't know. So really appreciate that. Let's open it up for questions. And if you'll hit the reaction button, that will pop you up on my screen, I hope. And does anyone have any questions for John?
Yeah, this is Steve. I do. Yeah, I noticed you didn't have Apache Open Office. Maybe that's not open source. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's open source, but the way the story goes, I started out back in the middle 2000s with a program called Star Office. Star Office became Open Office.
Right.
Open Office went through some adoption problems with their companies that owned them and started to do some things that were not part of the open source activity. And so the main developers of Open Office said, hey, this is our recipe, we're going to do it. They sidestepped and they went with free LibreOffice.
Oh.
Open Office continued and has gone through 2 different owners. Now is with Apache. It's a parallel to LibreOffice. And the negative, not negative, but the thing about it is because LibreOffice is the original, anything that the Open Office people develop, LibreOffice by law gets their development. But things that LibreOffice develop doesn't have to go back to Apache Open Office. So they're very, very similar. LibreOffice is probably the one that's being developed, better and more, and Apache's coming along. Not quite sure how long it will stay. I don't know how long Apache will want to say you're kind of getting to be a little bit of a burden around here or something.
Okay.
Open Office is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the second question is, it would be very helpful to know about how easily it is to convert to the big dogs. So for example, if I want to convert something from Microsoft Word into LibreOffice or vice versa, it'd be helpful to know that in all of these programs, how easy it is to convert to the pay programs, because those are the big dogs. Those are the ones most people have, rather than, than these.
In LibreOffice, LibreOffice reads all of the Microsoft files. In fact, years ago, it was funny because when they switched to one of the versions, I can't remember which one, you had to get, for Windows, you had to get like a translating program to run. LibreOffice and OpenOffice could read it right away. The difference is going to be if you are somebody who uses some really unique, specialized features in Word and in Spreadsheet. Some of those, because of being closed source, they do not transfer over. But my feeling is, for almost the 90% of the people I know and what we do, you don't need those extra features. And so it goes back and forth. I can save everything I do in LibreOffice as a Microsoft and others. There's a huge list of all that it can convert to. So I can't say that it's perfect, and that's partly because Microsoft keeps some of their stuff hidden, so nobody knows how to what's in that recipe for those features. But files are files. Yeah. And none of, I have not had any trouble even, running Linux or Windows and the programs. If it's a file made for this program, I used to go back and forth between Linux and Windows and all my documents and all of my photo and graphics. They're all, JPEG's a JPEG, and it doesn't matter which program you use, it opens up a JPEG. So unless you're in a real specialized field, I don't think there's going to be a problem that way.
Thank you. Excellent presentation.
Thank you. I do it again in North Texas Saturday.
Okay, are there other questions, comments? Yeah, Bob, you have your hand up.
Yeah, one comment. LibreOffice and conversion of a Microsoft PowerPoint. If it's a simple PowerPoint, there's no problem converting it over to LibreOffice or vice versa. If it has embedded videos in your PowerPoint, don't try to convert it. It won't work. You'll wind up with a botched job at the end. So again, as John said, simple things, no problems. Things that are designed to only happen in PowerPoint that aren't available in free stuff, they're not going to convert. You'll wind up with a problem. But if it's a simple PowerPoint, you can create it, or you can import it directly from PowerPoint into LibreOffice without any problems.
Yeah, and similarly, if you create it in LibreOffice and you do what you need to do, it'll work. But that's the problem with Microsoft and not being a part of the open documents system. Open document, which is the basis for LibreOffice and OpenOffice and OnlyOffice, Microsoft is just now starting to adopt to that. But it's a worldwide format and everybody uses it, but Microsoft chose that they're going to have their little proprietary file system. And so if I don't know what's in the recipe, I can't tell you what's there. Thanks, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Stan, Bernard DeFazio is next.
Say it again, Huey.
Bernard DeFazio is next.
Oh, I see. Go ahead, please.
He's muted.
Bernard, would you unmute yourself, please?
Well, while he's trying to figure that out, if he's there, Shandon.
I have a question. How do we access that file that John has sent with all the links? And also, if we want to look at the recording from today, where would that be?
Good. Answers for Stan, because Stan has my file.
Okay, and Huey, can I send them to you, and would you put them on the WinSig site? Would that be the simplest way?
Actually, probably put it on the CFCS site for the file, and I can say that the recording will be on the CFCS YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have Bernard yet?
Don't know. There we go.
He unmuted himself, but we don't hear you, Bernard.
It's muted again.
Yeah, must be having a microphone problem.
Well, while we're waiting, I really do have to say that the philosophy of how complicated do you need it, and try the free one first. It might do everything you need, and you won't have to pay for the more complicated version, which will be harder to understand, and that sort of thing. That was really thought-provoking, and I appreciated your talk very much, John. Thank you.
Thanks.
There's a comment from Ellen Farnham in the chat box. Can the support programs be run from USB, or does the registry structure of Windows limit that? John?
Support structure, I guess.
Well, the way I read it is, can you run some of these from a USB stick, or do they have to be installed?
That's another whole program, because there a lot of programs have been created to run off thumb drives. And so, you know, there's another whole presentation on that. But I used to have a thumb drive that had, 50 different programs that ran off of it. So I haven't looked at that list lately to see, but yes, there are plenty of portable apps that will run off a thumb drive. Linux itself runs off of a thumb drive as the whole operating system.
There used to be a website called portableapps.com, I think.
Yeah, that's the one
and you could download the portable version of a lot of these programs.
Yeah, it was great, because that way, you had them on your thumb drive. You went to somebody's house back in the days that you need to work and they didn't have a program, pop in the thumb drive and you ran it. But yeah, portableapps.com.
Yeah, and Ellen also says equation functions, at least back in OpenOffice days, could not be read by Word or vice versa.
Yeah.
Any comment on that?
It's improved over the years, and you'd have to, give it a try and see. I'm not a huge complicated spreadsheet maker, but they've improved things. And again, it's goes back to the problem that with Microsoft being closed source, it's kind of hard to replicate a recipe if you don't know what all's in it. So OpenOffice and LibreOffice, which is the better one, keeps working at the recipe to make the things compatible. But if Microsoft keeps throwing a little bit of something in, then it's not going to convert. But it's been better than a lot. It's better than it was a number of years ago.
One more for the chat box, and we'll go back to some people who have their hands up. Elizabeth Bradley says, would you suggest moving from OpenOffice to LibreOffice?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as I said earlier, LibreOffice is the actual big driving one. OpenOffice is just kind of tagging along.
Okay, Bernard has got his hand up again, and he's unmuted. So let's see if he can go ahead, Bernard.
I just can't get it just won't work for me.
I can hear you.
Okay, John, this question is for you. I do not belong to Central Florida. I belong to Sterling Heights.
Oh,
up
you're
in-
my
up
Sterling
in
Heights guy.
Up in Michigan.
Yep.
And could you send me a copy of your slides?
You can just come to see Stan can or Huey, can he just come and get it there? But I can send
Yeah.
them to you. I'm your advisor for your APCUG, so I know your group well.
Yeah, Bernard, it will be on the CFCS.org website, and it will be on the YouTube for the Central Florida Computer Society. You can get to it if you can't find it any other way. Go to huey.net and go to the YouTube page, and there's a link there. It'll take you to the CFCS channel.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear
Thank
from
you for
up
joining
north.
us.
Yeah,
Yep.
one of my Michigan boys.
Yeah, Stephen has a question too, again, or another.
Yeah, one possible concern I think about free or open source with the paid programs. Of course, you've got this highly paid team of people constantly checking and making sure that they're very secure. I'm not sure that you can say the same thing about free and open source. Maybe you can, I just don't know, but that might be a concern for some people. What do they hope to get out of all the work that they're putting into it, unless there is a pay version, which you hopefully will upgrade to? So security is the question.
Yeah. We have lots and lots of geeks in the open source world. And, my comment would be that, in the paid version, they have a small team that inspects their software code because it's private. They've got to keep it under lock and key. In the open source world, anybody can look at it. And I can't believe it, but there are a lot of people that just read all that code looking for something. And so I would have to say that it's more secure because of the fact that we have everybody looking at code than a small group. And like I said before, on that one time that one of the Linux distros got hacked, they had that figured within a few hours and resolved because they had so many people. When they heard the word that there was a problem, man, they just had tons of people get into that code and they were able to figure out what they did and they patched it and blocked it. So I think that the open source has a larger group because anybody can be a part of looking at it.
And another comment from the chat box from Mike Ungerman. I'd
Mike.
recommend going to LibreOffice. The open office document format is compatible.
Yeah, you can just do it. In fact, when LibreOffice came about, they were using the same icons. And so when you migrated and installed LibreOffice, you didn't realize it because it was the same icons because they're basically the same program. But yeah, they're identical programs, except one has a better development than the other.
If you already have installed OpenOffice, should you delete that before going to LibreOffice?
I would do that. Just
Okay.
because there might be some code in OpenOffice that stays and it shouldn't do any problems. But like I said, the icons from OpenOffice stayed. I didn't have the LibreOffice icons, although they were the same, but they're just designed a little bit different.
Very good.
So yeah, I would. Yeah.
I don't see any other questions and no other comments in the chat box.
Okay.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. And I hope some people have found some new software they might try because it's free. And if you don't.
John, a last question. I know it doesn't fit into the free and open source, but it does fit into the free. There's more and more cloud-based programs available. Are you starting to play with any of those, or are you pretty much staying with the FOSS?
Well, I've used some of the the cloud storage. I've tinkered around with both Google Docs and Microsoft's web stuff. And I know that there are people doing more photo editing from the cloud. And of course, I know that you're coming from the Chromebook people who are using most of that. right now, since I'm mostly a PC user and I like to have programs on my computer that are running off of my hardware, not off of, cloud. But it might become that's the way to go, because it's almost like going back to the old terminals, the dumb terminals where nothing was at your desk except keyboard and a monitor.
Like Canva, for instance, for photo editing.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to mind, and it's a pretty robust program, yet it's all online, and I think you can probably get to it and use it through Linux as well.
Yeah, I think that the problem people have is, well, if I'm using online, I have to upload my picture to somebody.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to, and the same thing we do with Microsoft, all the files that you store up there, all the files you store with Google, what happens to those up there? And so there's some people, I just like to keep all my stuff here.
Yep, I understand. Okay, let's see. Anyone who wants to save this chat now, go to the bottom across from everyone where you see the three dots. Click on the three dots and save the chat. And Mike says, Elizabeth, Revo uninstaller will delete the program and leave your data files alone.
Yeah, and we found out that with the Revo that when you try to get rid of an antivirus, and when we always talk about how Windows, you can only have one antivirus, and you think you removed it. I've worked on a lot of computers that I could not put another antivirus on, even though we removed it, because there were still traces left around the place. And so a program like Revo goes in and digs deep into registry and stuff and gets rid of all that. Then you can do another antivirus. So yeah, it's a good program.
Sorry, John.
Yeah.
All AVs have their own uninstalled programs.
Yep.
And that's what you should be using. Because
Yep.
even Revo doesn't dig deep enough to get rid of everything. Your
Ah.
AV, to protect you, has to have access to every part of your computer. It's almost like a virus in order to detect viruses. And the only true way to get rid of it is run the uninstaller designed for that AV.
And as long as you get a good one and does what it's supposed to do.
Well,
yeah.
But that's what, yes.
Revo, I believe, uses the program's own uninstaller first and then does its thing afterwards.
Correct, but it still doesn't dig deep enough. The uninstaller, your recommendation is that you uninstall using the normal uninstall procedure, and then you run the uninstaller. It then runs in safe mode and gets rid of all the stuff that can't be accessed while you're using Windows in the regular mode. And it cleans out the registry and everything else.
Yeah, Stan, besides the normal uninstaller that a program has, when you install, you can uninstall it from Windows. The antivirus programs have a special program that you have to go to their website usually and download a complete uninstaller that will go in and find those files that Bob's talking about.
Refer back to the follow-up information that I've sent to all of the clubs, and it has in it all of the well-known antivirus programs and their uninstaller tools with specific instructions on how to totally get rid of those.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, they don't make it easy.
Nope.
Oh, they don't. Well, quite an afternoon. Thank you very much, Huey and John. Very informative. Appreciate your efforts immensely. A couple of real quick announcements. This Thursday is the CFCS Board of Directors meeting. There are still a couple of members listening. The 21st is the CFCS Apple group meeting, also Zoom, and then the TechSig is the 22nd of this month. That's the fourth Tuesday. Saw a lot of older names that I haven't seen in a while. David Montgomery was on for a while, Paul Enschelmeyer, Sandy Shearer, Norm Griffin, Nancy McGill. Thank you all for coming. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Stay distant still. we have all these variants coming in, and I'm still a bit nervous myself. Good to see you all. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for coming. I'm going. Oh, Huey, have you stopped the recording?
No, I'll do that right now.
Please.